welcome to my March film and TV wrap-up. So much, I didn't actually end up watching that much. I ended up watching a few sort of certain series, quite a lot, but apart from that I didn't really watch that many things, so hopefully this video is going to be quite short, so let's get into it. First thing I have to mention is the obvious one, and that is WandaVision. Now this is actually going to be spoilers, so I will leave a timestamp here where I stop talking about it, so if you have not watched WandaVision, skip to that time so you don't get any spoilers. But essentially, I loved the finale, but it took me 2 watches to love it, because I had a wish list that I was convinced that was going to happen. If you've been on my TikTok, which I'll leave a link to down below, you will know that I was screaming about House of M happening. I've been screaming about House of M happening for months, everywhere. I was certain it was going to happen, and then it didn't. I was absolutely convinced that House of M was going to happen. I was convinced that we were going to get the words "No More Mutants." I was convinced we were going to see Doctor Strange. And I was also convinced that it was going to be revealed that Evan Peters' Pietro was actually Peter from the X-Men universe, and we were possibly going to get that confirmation that the X-Men of the Fox universe were going over to the MCU. And none of that happened. None of it happened, and at first I was incredibly disappointed, and it was the first time Marvel have disappointed me with a storyline, and it took me a while to, it took me most of the day to get over that. And then I watched it again with these changed expectations, going, look, of course House of M wasn't going to happen. This is a TV show on a streaming service that not everywhere around the world's got, and also it doesn't also guarantee that even in like countries where the streaming service is, that everyone's going to watch it. They're probably just going to watch the film, so naturally they weren't going to put the classic "No More Mutants" line in the TV show. So I had to change that expectation. I could kind of get over the fact that Doctor Strange was not in this either, because obviously COVID happened, all the rest of it, so he probably couldn't make it, so I get that, sort of. I was still slightly, tiny bit annoyed about that, not gonna lie, but I can get it. Like, pandemics stop things, essentially. Pandemics and schedules stop things. He's a very busy man. Obviously he wasn't going to turn up. Also, it was Wanda's show, so obviously he probably wasn't going to turn up. The only thing that I'm still annoyed about to this day is Evan Peters. I would never not be annoyed about that. Genuinely, I don't think I'm ever not going to be annoyed about that until they actually confirm that he is actually Peter Maximoff. Because I was convinced. I was absolutely, completely and utterly convinced. And also, I still don't get if Agatha had been controlling him and mind controlling him and all the rest of it. She said that simple transfiguration spells and all the rest of it take years to figure out. How did she give him powers? Also, why the hell does he look exactly like the Quicksilver from the Fox universe with the exact same powers, and also have basically the same name but the Sokovian version? Bit of a coincidence to also have the same face as the dude as well, so I was a little bit annoyed about that. I'm still in denial. I still think we could have possibly have it where he is actually Peter in the end, and it is revealed that he is Peter, because the showrunner of the show has now said that obviously if you are disappointed in something in the finale, wait a couple of years and you will usually get answers, because that's what Marvel's all about. Also, we have now heard that the witness protection thing is going somewhere, so the missing person who was in witness protection that Jimmy came to Westview to find is also going to be important. We have now heard this as well, and also the showrunner has said that she can't talk about Evan Peters or anything like this, so I do genuinely think that we are going to have it where it is going to turn out that he is actually Peter and Ralph was his hex name. So obviously Dottie's real name was Sarah, so clearly Wanda gave everybody different names, so maybe Peter Maximoff is actually Peter Maximoff and Ralph was his name in terms of the hex, or maybe Agatha gave him that name. We don't know, but I am still holding out hope. I will forever be holding out hope, because I am an X-Men nerd and I am so desperate for like my X-Men, the Fox X-Men, to turn up in the MCU. I'm desperate for it. If we're getting Deadpool, they've now brought in Evan Peters. We're now getting Madripoor in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I will mention in a minute. It's gotta happen. I'm still convinced. I'm still convinced, but I'm slightly worried now. But I'm still convinced. I'm still very much convinced. I just think it's going to take a little while. Hopefully this isn't going to come back to bite me in the arse later. But I'm still convinced, because I don't see the point of using Evan Peters. I don't see Evan Peters coming back to play a version of the same character he's played before for it to then not mean multiverse. I don't see how this works, essentially. So hopefully there will be an answer, and hopefully they won't just screwing with us. I have faith. I also continued watching Hellstrom as it's airing at the moment, and I'm still enjoying myself. I've got to admit that it's still a cheesy 2006 type CW show, despite the fact that it was made in like 2019. So that's a bit confusing, but at the same time I'm still enjoying myself. I still think it's really good. It's holding me over while I wait for Lucifer to come back in May, so I'm not particularly bothered. It's still good. I'm still enjoying myself. It's just a bit cheesy, but I'm okay with that. I then watched Captain America: The First Avenger, because obviously with Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming out, I was originally going to watch the entire Captain America trilogy, then realised that I had watched Winter Soldier and Civil War in December and January, and went, I don't really need to watch those ones again. I only really need to watch The First Avenger. So I watched First Avenger and still absolutely loved it. I still do genuinely love Captain America. I love his trilogy. I genuinely love it so much, and I do think it's an absolutely brilliant trilogy. And I love Peggy. Peggy's still one of my favourites. I still adore Bucky. I still adore Steve. I still adore the Howling Commandos, and just generally this entire film. It's still amazing to me. I still absolutely love it, and it still holds up as a really good Marvel film, and just a film in general. I just genuinely really love it. Obviously I then watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and this is a no spoiler zone now, because obviously this is a brand new show and I am loving it so far. If you've been on my TikTok, I do have spoilers on there as well, where I've been reacting to it and talking about it, so check that out if you do want my spoilery thoughts. But I am loving it. The banter between Sam and Bucky is amazing. I am loving it. John Walker can choke, essentially, and I'm just generally loving it. In general, it's amazing. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm loving like this exploration of like what it's like to be a superhero, and also this exploration as well of like the racism in America and stuff like this. I'm still like so loving the fact that we are finally exploring this in such a huge show, and I'm just generally loving this series, quite frankly. I am loving it. On to things now that aren't Marvel stuff. So the first thing is The Secret Life of the Zoo. I've been obsessed with this show. It's been re-showing on like Channel 4, like an episode a day, and I've just been watching it for like several weeks now, essentially. I can't stop watching it because it's just so good, essentially. It's just a really nice show that sort of you can watch in the background and just see all of these animals just doing nice, fun, happy things, and it generally ends in a happy thing, even though we do get like ill animals and animals that unfortunately die and stuff like this, so please be warned about that if you are going to watch it. But it generally ends on a happy ending. Every single episode it generally ends on a happy ending, and animals are generally quite funny, so it's just generally quite fun to watch. And then the final thing I have to mention is John Wick 1 and 2, because we decided to rewatch these, essentially, and I have been loving them. We have not watched the third one yet, but I have been loving rewatching John Wick again. Obviously, again, this is a giant, violent, gory film, and it's another one that I can sort of switch off to while I'm watching, because it is like basically an action film and stuff like this, but I do love like the world building of it and just how it all sort of interweaves together and stuff, and I love that it's like one giant great big story across 3, now 4 films, and I just really enjoy this film, to be honest. I really enjoy it. And that is absolutely everything I watched in March, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below with what you watched in March. Please do not give spoilers though, just in case people haven't seen any of the things I have just mentioned, so leave that spoiler free. I'll also leave a link down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!